Can you hear me now? Aha! Excellent. So you missed all that stuff about me losing the goblin the goblin green moments before painting a goblin. So yeah, this is the guy we're going to be painting. This is Boggleye. He's from the Gobbapalooza box set for the GameSpike Gits. 190 points of utter chaos. He comes with a bunch of his mates. So you've got, oh, come here. Everything's all. This dude, whose name I can't remember, Brewgit or something like that. Shrewmancer, who is just peak goblin. This guy, I think, is called Spiker, who is also peak goblin. And oh, where's the scaremonger? He might be in the other room. Oh well, we'll press on. This is the guy we're painting today. I'm going to be painting him as part of the 250 points a month challenge thing. We're kind of setting up on the Say Hi Paul Discord. Oh right, so you want to heard me say hi. Hi Mick. Hi Salistar. Anyone else there? No? Okay, cool. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, we're setting up a 250 points a month challenge thing on Say Hi Paul's Discord. Thank you very much, Mick. Can I repeat what, please? Which bit? Which bit do you want me to repeat? I've said a lot. The intro. You had it, mate. Well, in short, anyway. Yeah, so this guy's 190 points with his 5 mates, and I'm going to be painting him and his 4 mates. 3, sir. For the first month of the as yet unnamed 250 points a month challenge. So let's get cracking. I'm going to challenge myself a little bit more and not go for my usual grim dark style. I'm going to be painting a little bit more like the studio does. A little brighter and a little cleaner. So this is me way outside my comfort zone. But we're going to start by getting a palette. A little bit of a palette. We're back with Old Faithful here because I'm going to be using a bit of wet palette, action for this one. I think for the for taking up the highlighting and such. But we're going to get a bit of that, which is Contrast Lux in purple. So already we're deviating from the studio style. We're going to get a little bit of contrast medium out. I'm thinking maybe 2, 3 of them to maybe 1, 2, 3 of them, just to thin it out a bit so we get a lighter green eventually. Yeah, you noticed I said green as well, didn't you? Yes, I know you'd noticed that. And you're saying that's not green, Moog, that's purple. Watch this. Now, if you've seen some of my live streams before, you might have seen me use the purple technique before. Purple is a wonderful base shade colour under a variety of colours, but especially, as you will soon see, well, that seemed like such a good idea at the time. Excuse me. So this is just my usual black prime with a white, grey-white zenith all over the top. I've not dry brushed or anything, so this isn't a slap chop derivative or anything like that. This is just me with contrast paints, letting contrast paints do what they do. Well, do what they do over a zenithal anyway. Get out of that cork. We're just going to use the base. I'm surprised that Games Workshop don't advocate the zenithal for contrast, but I suppose if you're going to try and get little kids into painting, overcomplicating things with zenithal primes and things like that is probably not the best idea. If anyone watching at the moment doesn't know what a zenithal prime is, please stop me, I will explain. But I'm assuming I've got my usual 3 or 4. Hi CA, how you doing? Usual 3 or 4 people, my loyalists watching, and I reckon, at least I hope by now, they should know what a zenithal prime is. Cat hair in my brush. I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I had, some of you may know, I had an interview last week, which is why there wasn't a stream. Unfortunately, I didn't get the job, but I am on the reserve list for it. So hopefully I might be getting some good news fairly soon, because one of the other people holding down the job that I would be going into is applying for another position. So then it would fall to the people on the reserve list, and that's me. The Moog massive. Well, I'm massive. My following, yeah, not so much. But you know, it's quality over quantity. At least so I've been told anyway. Right. And if you know how greenskins operate, you're probably watching this miniature disappear as I apply paint. Don't worry, they'll be back. Because purple, as we know, is the stealthiest of colours when it comes to greenskins, and they're dead stealthy. Because have you ever seen a purple orc? Seen a purple goblin? It's actually quite a cool colour for the goblin. I like that. These guys are kind of drugged up shroom fiends, so it's kind of tempting to paint them, one of them in a weird colour. I'll have to go over that. For that, we're going to use a bit of Pallid Witch just because it's there and it'll do the job. Because that cowl, I'm thinking of doing in a light colour, possibly yellow. So that just covers up the bit of purple that I had over the top of that. Right. So that was slightly watered down. I say watered. Added contrast medium. Like some purple. That might be the only bit of that I use, but I'll keep it around just in case. Is there any more flesh on that to be seen. Nope, he's wearing boots. Oh, the goblin little, I don't know, what are these? Grotlets? See, back in the old days, they'd be snotlings. I miss snotlings. But, I don't think we have snotlings anymore, which is a crying shame. Okay, so there we've got our purple skin on our goblin. And now, actually, let's get some more colour down on the mini before we go over the skin. For that, we're going to use Black Legion. So just laying down the base colours and getting an idea where the shades and highlights are going to be. I'm not going to be using this. Is not a pure contrast scheme. I don't know whether I prefer this to. What's their other contrast black? I forget. I did have some of it, but I've used it all. One of you will know. Oh, and there's Black Legion and the Black Templar. There we are, Black Templar. Yeah. Black Templar's a little bit more on the grey side. And I'm not entirely sure which of the two I prefer. I think possibly Black Templar by a hair because it's more versatile. Just laying in base colour, and then we're going to let that dry. I'm guessing most of you are well conversant with contrast paints, but if you're not, if you go back over contrast paints too quickly, you don't let them dry, like properly dry, you can tear them, which is a very hard thing to repair once it's happened. So, discretion being the better part of valour where contrast paints are concerned. If you have missed a few bits, dab rather than stroke. This will enable you to get a little bit more depth of colour into the recesses. But generally contrast will do what it does. I don't know whether you can see what's doing there. Now the temptation here would be to go for my hairdryer to speed things up, but if you do high heat hairdryer over contrast, you can end up with a kind of a shiny finish on it, which isn't what we want. Well, it's not what I want, might be what you want. So we're just going to let that dry naturally. And while we're doing that, I'm going to reach for the, what shall we use? We're going to use Nasdrag. I think that might end up being a bit too, actually, let's be a bit crafty about this. So we'll scoop out a bit of Nasdrag, stick that there. then we'll get a bit of a yandon. A brush of each. Mix those together. Yeah, I'm liking doing the gobbos. For some reason, they're a lot of fun. I don't really get on with Games Workshop's. Well, I suppose it's the orcs because I kind of do like the goblins. Yeah, the orcs are a bit sort of. Their comedy doesn't sit well to me, but goblins are kind of mischievous naturally for an unnatural thing. It's kind of their folklore that they are mischievous. So the brand of humour works better for goblins than it does for orcs, I think. I mean, when it comes down to it, the orcs are just big green Millwall fans. Dad, don't send me hate mail. They're literally based on Millwall fans. That whole over-the-top personality thing they've got. Football hooligans. Not that Millwall were exclusive with their hooliganness. I think it's fair to say they were prominent. Back in the 80s and the 70s. Oh, I'm liking that. I'm going to have to start mixing the Nazdrag and Yandon together again more often, because that's a beautiful golden yellow. Beautiful. Try and get this started to dry up on the palette a bit. And I don't want to use the wet palette for the contrast, because wet palette and contrast paint does not mix well anyway. Okay, we'll just let that dry as well. I've got some matte varnish on standby just in case things end up looking a bit too shiny, which they might. Hi, Chris. What have we got there? We've got a bat there. What colour are we going to do next? Actually, whilst I'm here, I'm just going to grab a little bit of that yellow, and I'm going to hit up his eyes, because if anyone remembers painting back in the 90s. I think we might have one or two of you who might be old enough for that, possibly. Mick certainly. Whether you were involved in the hobby in the 90s is another matter. It was always a thing to give red an undercoat of yellow. Mainly because paints back then were rubbish. But this is me just dabbing some more yellow onto the robe where it's patchy, but it's patchy doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter too much because it kind of breeds as texture and such. Let's draw a bit out of that recess just to deepen that shade there. Yeah. I like that. It looks proper weird in purple, but he is going to be green, trust me. Right, okay, what got you next? We're going to go with Skill in the Flesh, don't need that. Garagak Sewer. Garagak Sewer. Do like me some Garagak Sewer. That's a great base for leather and wood. All manner of brownness. I'm with you, Mick. I'm with you on the eye painting. Normally I don't bother, but with things like goblins and orcs and things, where it tends to be a solid colour rather than whites and pupils and irises and what have you, I think it's best to go for it. Just adds to the otherworldliness of it all. Double on those blood angels. That's it's actually a lot easier than it looks. One day I will demonstrate, but I'm not doing stubble on this guy. You can get an awful lot of the stubble effect from just glazing. With increasingly grey flesh tones. Which looks really good on the tops of Space Marines' heads. Their shaven heads. Okay, that's not looking particularly yellow on the screen, but it's looking very... but it's kind of a desaturated yellow, which is kind of what I was going for. Which is, yeah, it's good. No, I haven't got a Scooby what these things are. I think they're fungal spore thingies. Yeah, that's what we'll go with. Fungal spore thingies. Oh, why have we got, what is that? That's Agaros Dunes, I think it is. No, it's not Agaros Dunes, it's Armageddon Dust. Because I did the texture on the base before I put the miniature on, and just round below the line of this stalagmite formation here, there was a gap. So I filled that in. I filled that in with the texture paint before streaming. So that's why that's there. Squiggle arch for the win. Squiggle arch all the way. I hope she has as much fun painting it as I am so far. Not that I've actually painted anything from the Squiggle Lounge box set, but I'm certainly enjoying my goblins. Right. Now I mentioned Agaros Dunes, and that's where I'm going next. Yeah, Agaros Dunes. I'm just going to get the base coloured in. Hi, Chris. Once we get the basic colours down, we can start highlighting and shading and doing all that fun stuff. And pushing all the highlights up to 11, which is what the studio team do. Oh, why don't you just make 10 louder? It goes up to 11. I'm going for cave floor with these guys as the basing theme. So Agaros Dunes go down, and then there'll probably be a dry brushing of Xandri dust over the top, and some of this Middle East soil pigment, just to finish it off. Maybe, because with it being a limestone cave, there's a lot of water in there naturally, unless it's a dead cave, which it wouldn't be because they're growing mushrooms and things. So a little bit of gloss here and there to suggest moisture is probably what you want. Squigs, fanatics, lots of spears is the way forward. That's certainly where I'm going. I have some very old goblin miniatures. Well, I say very old. They're from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 90s, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, 158, 159, 160, 161, 162, 163, 164, 165, 166, 167, 168, 169, 170, 171, 172, 173, 174, 175, 176, 177, 178, 179, 180, 1 second ed box, I think. Possibly third. I don't remember. But it was elves versus goblins. And the goblin miniatures had seriously pointy spears. Like actually hazardous to paint. Drew blood if you weren't careful sort of spears. Right, okay, we're gonna grab a bit of that Agros and we're just gonna do his boot as well because nobody paints boots. Who cares about boots? We don't care. I don't care. I might paint it in black later, but for the moment, Agros Dunes is fine. Okay. We're going to bat there. What are we going to do with the bat? Bat, 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 bat. That's Fire Slayer. That's no good to me. I am looking for... That's Garagax Sewer. That's no good to me. That's not good to me. Grunter. Nice brown bat. Again, this is just base colours. We'll be highlighting up from here. And probably shading down because I've forgotten how orange Gore Grunter is. Actually, if I get a bit of Gore Grunter, stick it there. And I get a bit of Garagax Sewer. Mix the two together. We'll get a colour that isn't easy to repeat across several hundred miniatures. However, as each one of these Gobbapalooza is a character in effect, I don't really care because they're not rank and file. That's a lot of that work done. Let's draw that paint out of there. Dump it in the more of the recess. And he's got like a little fruit bat type thing there. Fun fact, I have eaten fruit bat. Not a lot of people know that. Okay, so I've just spotted a little bit of loincloth, so I'm going to get the skeleton horde, I think. What's the story? What, the fruit bat story? Or the loincloth story, because that's an entirely different story, and that's not for discussion. We don't talk about the loincloth incident. Yeah, it was dead. It was cooked. It was a long time ago when I was knee-high to what I am now. Actually, probably a little bit over knee-high. I was probably about 8, 9. Yeah, about that. I was lucky enough to go to the Seychelles on holiday. The Seychelles are a little archipelago in the middle of the Indian Ocean, famed for pirates, coco de mer, which are like these big two-lobed seeds things that float everywhere. You can look them up. I don't need any hot girls, thank you very much. Let's get rid of you. Thank you, Beck. Where was I? Yeah. And fruit bat is something they eat there. So while I was out there, I had occasion to have curried fruit bat. Because that's what was served. And it was that or nothing. So it's not a particularly amusing story or anything like that, but you know, it's one of those things. You now know more about me than a lot of people. Skeleton horde. Where did what come from? The hot girls comment. There was a spammer in the channel. I just looked up and there was a spammer. All right. Okay. I think it's time. This goblin was a little less purple. What do we reckon? I think it's about that time. Fruit bat. It was okay. Tasted of curry. Right. Tesseract Glow. Watch this. So give your Tesseract Glow a good shake. Yeah, I don't understand why people eat pheasants. They're not... I mean, I can understand if it's the only thing you've got to eat, but they're not tasty birds at all. I don't think, anyway. Look at that skin texture and colour we're getting out of that. And that's just Tesseract Green over that Luxon Purple. And we just end up with weird sort of green mottled goblin skin. And we can keep highlighting up. Hi, I'm RH. And this is something I discovered quite by accident. Whilst I was painting a big almost don't want to say it, goblin bust. I was painting a goblin bust, which is on my Instagram, I think. I'm pretty sure I shared that. And I painted that all purple for the shading aspect, and then I went over it with the Tesseract glow just to see what happened, and this happened, and I thought, oh wow, that looks really good. I will use that more often. And it has become my go-to base shade and colouring technique for goblins. Orcs, slightly different. You can actually go over purple with Agarose dunes, and you get a much, because my orcs are not green. Well, they are kind of greenish, but they're mostly brown. More natural hues of brown. They're certainly not luminous green like this. But yeah, Agarose dunes over the purple where it works really well for that. And so does Plague Layer Flesh, actually. But we're going with Tesseract Glow. Like I say, I'm not going to leave this as a contrast paint scheme. I'm going to go back over it and highlight in a studio style, but this is my go-to to get that base to work from. And it looks a whole lot more complicated than it actually is, I think anyway. I think it's a lovely effect. The other thing about it is, have I got? No, it's not to hand, so I can't demonstrate. Tesseract Glow glows under UV light, so you have glowing goblins. Which kind of makes sense with all the bioluminescent fungus they eat. No idea why this snotling, grotling, whatever it is, looks so terrified, but oh well, if you want actual UV reacting glow in the dark green paint, that's what you want to reach for. Green Stuff Fluor. There's a whole range of these. There's green and yellow and purple and red and pink and all sorts. The other thing about using purple under the green is because where they are on the colour wheel, you don't actually have to hit up all the purple. The purple then just reads as shade. So I think this is probably one of my better discoveries. My few discoveries, and now I've shared it with the world. Who knows, maybe it'll catch on. Like I say, I'm going to take it a bit further with highlights and shades and things, but as a speed painting technique to get a really nice skin effect. I think that's about where it's at. Let's get a bit more light on the subject. I can't see what's going on. I'll take my glasses off, can I see? Yeah. Right, so I've got a few more things I need to pick out in Gyrogax. But that's the skin done. And if that's all you tuned in for, I maybe should have done the skin a bit later. Oh, these snotlings, grotlings just look so dejected. Oh, it's funny. It's probably about 80 quid's worth of pro painted on eBay even now. £18 for 17mm. Oh, the fluor stuff. Yeah. Best to have a proper big project, I think, before heavily investing in them. I've used them on all sorts. I've used them on Harlequins. I've used them on my Nurgle stuff. All sorts. Mushrooms for these guys. They'll find a home on the mushrooms, I'm sure. I barely know what I'm painting in advance of, you know, more than a couple of hours, because I find it's very changeable. I'm very changeable. Like I said, I was going to paint Ellania and Ellathor. I'll finish these guys off, but yeah, goblins are way more fun. So I'm just detailing in now, and this has all been done with a number 2 brush. You know, you don't need a super thin brush for any of this. You just need a fairly decent. Oh, this isn't even a fairly decent brush. This is a cheap of Amazon. You just need something that can come to a decent point when you need it to, and a bit of a steady hand. So I'm starting to shade now. Which is, may look a bit odd seeing as I'm picking out details, but it'll make sense. It will make sense. Please make sense. Wood, Soish purple, get a bit of that Luxon purple. Darkside's fun. I'm enjoying it. Not playing an awful lot of it. But when I do get an hour or so to play it, I'm sort of pottering along and it's good fun. I can see it getting quite samey eventually. But hopefully they keep ahead of that curve by introducing new classes and things to play. New maps. But as it is, yeah, it's good. Oh, just spotted something. Always, back of one of his ears. Whenever I use this technique, I always forget the back of one of the ears. Yeah, Vermintide. Yeah, it was the same sort of thing. I couldn't tell you which is the better game. I think they're both good in different ways, but I really am enjoying the IP and the character generation and all sorts in there. It's bizarrely detailed, the character generation in Darkside. Not a lot of it has an in-game effect. Well, none of it has an in-game effect on your character that affects how the game plays, but your choices of planetary background and history and such have an impact on some of the in-game dialogue when the characters are interacting during missions, which is really cool. It's a really nice touch. And planetary background can lock or unlock certain traits. Like the Cadians are famous for having sort of a trait where they've got or they can have violet sort of irises because they're mutants and chaos and such. And you can have that if you're Arcadian, and only if you're Arcadian, which is kind of cool, I think. So a nice bit of detail. Right, where are we going to go now? Because we're getting some nice colour on there. He's starting to look really good. I'm liking that. What am I going to do with these? Before I do that, let's do a bit of highlighting and actually get the wet palette out now. We're nearly done with the contrast paint. I think we are very nearly done with the contrast paint. One thing I was going to do, I had an idea whilst I was looking at these fungal nodules. I was going to use a bit of this dreadful visage on the underside of them. Just to give them a little bit of sickly colour. And again, kind of buying into that undertone of purple on the miniature. So really I'm just shading here. So just the base of the fungal nodules. Polyps. It's a good word, isn't it? Polyp. Polyp. Actually, let's just do the whole thing. Let's do the village. Let's do the whole village. I think from there what we can do is we can go in with a little bit of Druky Violet and just sort of deepen that purple. I'm liking that. We're getting there with the colours, man. That looks pretty cool already. I want to get some Xandri dust on that. No, don't do the Xandri dust yet. No, just carry on. Carry on. Right, so what I'm going to do with the smoke. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to worry about it later. That's kind of wet. Damp-ish. Gulp of coffee. Quickly, glasses actually. Let's talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Just cleaning my glasses so I can actually see what I'm doing. Gosh, isn't it dark? Isn't it dark? Dark and cold. That's what it is at the moment. I would think it was winter. Oh, there we go. A bit more light on the subject. I'll put those there. I'll get my actual glasses a bit of a rinse. Yeah, I wear 2 pairs of glasses. I do have one of those dork headsets that has the lenses that jut out in front of your face, but no. These are 3.0 reading glasses. That's all I need. Wearing long term, just stick them over your glasses. And oh my gosh, that's a miniature. I can see stuff. Whilst I've got that dreadful visage out. I'm just going to grab a little bit of that. And in his ears, I'm just going to shade that. And just on the underside of his face. Just to shade that down a bit. This is Berserker Bloodshed. Bloodshade, not Bloodshed, although. That is not enough Berserker Bloodshade. Let's go a bit more. Just want that to flow into his mouth, between his teeth. I also want to go around his eyes, because there's a sculpted spiral in his eyes, if you can see. Don't know whether you can see. I certainly can't see on the screen. Oh, he looks good. Right. Okay, so we've got some layer paints here. I'm going to go with Ural Yellow, because that's the yellow I've got. And some Dawn Yellow, because that's another yellow I've got. A little bit of that, a little bit of that, mix it together. A little bit of water around the edge there, just mix that in as well. And we're going to start some highlighting work. Half of you are like, who is this person and why is he doing this? Why isn't he covering everything in brown sauce? And because this is how I'm doing this army. We are going for a studio style. I should stress this is not how the studio paints it, or anything close to how the studio paints these sorts of things. They do have a recipe and a method. I do not know it. I don't really have a wish to learn it. But what I will end up doing in the process of painting these goblins is developing my own version of it, I think. The plan, I say the plan, the possibility at some point next year is that I might start commission painting. So I kind of need to raise my game, because people have certain expectations. So rather than edge highlighting here, I'm just looking for the raised areas. It's just that some of them happen to be the edges. But I'm also putting the odd fleck of texturing detail onto the cloth as well. The odd line, the odd dab. And so there's quite a gradient between the paint I'm using at the moment and the shade underneath. I'm just going for the very highlights, and we'll end up blending them together later. You can spend as long as you want doing nice clean gradients and blends and all sorts of stuff like that, and it does look good, but there comes a point where it's just a flex. It's like non-metallic metal. Why would you bother with non-metallic metal on a 3D object when there are perfectly serviceable 3D paints metallic paints that will do the job. Non-metallic metal is a technique for painting metals on a 2D canvas. There is no need beyond just proving that you can to engage in trying to paint non-metallic metals or worrying if you can't. Certainly don't worry if you can't, or certainly don't worry if you can't. There is no need to do it at all. Right, so I'm going to get a bit more dawn yellow, mix that in there. Just takes the highlights up a little bit more. One thing I have learned about the studio style is once you've found a level of highlight you're comfortable with, just push it that little bit further. Oh, thank you, Mick. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Objectively, I know I'm not terrible, but you know, head weasels are head weasels. So that's what I mean. I've gone way beyond on the highlighting than I normally would. And I am actually going to go a little bit further and just finish off a few spots of dawn yellow, pure dawn yellow, just here and there, and it just really just pops it. think it makes it pop a little bit too much, so I might need to dull it down with a little bit of a thinned down brown sauce wash, possibly. We'll see how we get on. Dawn yellow. Just bags of texture on there. I'm loving that. Loving that. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. Cool. Now, where am I going to go with the skin? I think what we're going to do. We are indeed always our worst critics, Chris. You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. I think we're going to start from Tesseract Glow, and we're just going to mix in a little bit of the mid-tone there, maybe grab a little bit of the Dawn Yellow as well, and what that'll do is it'll just even out that colour so we can just start hitting up the highlights. So, tip of the nose, some eyebrows. I'm going to get that top lip in there as well, just a little bit on that, just to make the expression pop. Top of the chin, and then we're just going to follow the bones. Get a bit more of that Dawn Yellow in there. Going on. Follow the bones in the hand. Again, we're just sort of pushing that highlight a little bit beyond where we're normally comfortable with. A little bit of water in there as well, I think, so we get a bit more of a glaze effect going on. There's Knuckles. Oops. Made a mistake. Avoid your brush and get a clean brush on there right away, and you can clear up most mistakes if you're quick. Tops of the ears, because I forgot them last time. So these snotlings, I'm just going for a sort of half dry brush effect, because I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time on the musculature. I just need to get the sense of them being sort of sickly greenskins. Don't know what I'm doing with the eyes. I'm going to have to do something with them. May I go for a sort of a... I may just go with dawn yellow actually, because I don't think they... I had dawn yellow and maybe the blood shade around the edges as well. Right, so that's just the edge of the brush. I'm just taking over the as if it's dry brushing. There we go. And we're back on with the a little bit more careful approach. Water up the side there. That's probably gone a little bit over the top for the for what I wanted to do. Just get a bit more tesseract glow out. The arms are tricky. You've got to sort of imagine there's a musculature there and make it up a little bit. Sometimes the musculature is a little bit more defined than others. This is not very well defined. Certainly get in there, isn't there? Certainly get in there. Let's do it a quick once over. Just on the uppermost highlights. Now you're looking at that black now, aren't you? I know you're looking at that black and thinking, how's he going to highlight that? Well, the short answer is I don't know. There's a number of ways to go about it. It's just a case of choosing one. It's a Ellania green. Oh, that's a nice deep blue, isn't it? Yeah. Let's do that. So get rid of that. And we are going to hit a little bit of... I'm going to try some grey in there, I think. How does that look mixed together? Weird. That's how that looks mixed together. But will it work? Let's have a look. Yes, it's just, no, A little bit darker. This is Leviathan blue. Let's get a bit of that there. Leviathan blue is blue. It does not pull any punches. It has pigment for days. Treat with caution. There we go. It's possibly a little bit too blue. We'll persevere. Okay, let's desaturate that with a little bit. A little bit of black. Let's get that going on in there. That'll do it. There we go. That's what we want. That's what we want. So that ended up as Administratum Grey, used to lighten Leviathan blue mixed with Black Legion. And we're just gonna just hit up the highlights on the robe around the edges. Just get a little bit of texture going on in there as well. And hopefully when this dries it won't read as blue, it'll read as highlighted black. And that's off the top of the screen. Do apologise for that. And back in the room. Right. You see how that blue just brings out the black. I think what we'll probably end up doing is going over this with a Nuln oil just to tie everything together. But as I said in one of my tutorial videos, black is very rarely actually black. So if you can get a decent off black going, which Black Legion actually is. It's a very dark grey. If you get a decent off black going, you can then deepen with black, get into all the shading areas, which really does help your black game. There we go. Probably going to push that a little bit higher, but not too much. A little bit of texture on there as well. Edge highlighting very carefully with the lighter grey. The light, which is actually quite a dark blue grey, but next to the black it looks like a lighter grey. There we go. get a couple of folds in there as well. Right, what are we doing with our bat? Oh, batty, batty, bat. Batty, bat. Go away, cat hair. Oh, before we do that, let's have a little bit of that dawn yellow. Go boop, dawn yellow. Boop. Boop, dawn yellow. Actually, I might kind of leave that there as just dawn yellow because that looks kind of it's kind of zombie-ish. I like that. Let's pick out the teeth in dawn yellow as well while we're here. Yeah. Yeah. Right, okay. Let's get a bit of dawn yellow on his nose, on his hooter, on the end of his hooter. Just again to raise that highlight a little bit above where we're actually comfortable. Just get some more contrast in there. All about the contrast. There we go. Loving it. Loving it. Right. Oh, I've missed her. Right. Gargock sewer, where are you? No, no, you're not Gargock sewer. There it is. Just noticed I've missed some stitching on the top of his cowl. And if I miss the stitching, it won't look as good. Right. What do I do with this tassel on the end here? I'm just going to block it in Gargock and make that decision later, I think. What are we thinking, guys? Starting to like him. He's looking rather cool. Right. I get the Pallid Witch flesh out. Over that. Some water, just thin it down. Because now we're going to hit up the stitching again. And you see how the Gargock sewer has... I can't actually see what's going on the screen. You haven't got any hope at all. Gargock sewer has just added this sort of an outline, which again makes it all pop. So you're almost highlighting with the... well, you are highlighting, literally highlighting with the pallid witch flesh there, just to get those stitchings in. I suspect this is leather thonging, so we're just going to work in the highlights on the thonging on his wrist. Quiet at the back. Yeah, you. You, the one who's tittering about thonging. Grow up. Thing-a-thong, thing out loud, thing out strong. Right, okay, let's get some Steel Legion drab on the go. We are going to have to moisten this down a bit because it's a base colour. But it's that bat where I'm going with this. I'm just hitting his bones where they would be joints. Because the contrast paint's done an awful lot of the work for us. So just looking at a little bit of that pallid witch flesh in there just to lighten the tone of the drab a bit. Push the contrast on the back beyond where I'm comfortable, which is good. And whilst we're there, I'm going to get a little bit of pink horror and boop on his nose. Why? Because it's funny. And little pink feet, because they are flying mouses. Fledermaus, which means fluttermouse. Being German for bat. Right, so I've been avoiding this smoke spore cloud thing for quarter. There. Right. Still not sure what I do with that. I think I'm going to go purple